Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well and safe and healthy out there. I'm Mike and this is Molly, and we're going to be guiding you through our cookie and wine tasting. I'm really excited to eat some cookies, and Molly's going to be kind of just giving the overall description of each wine, and we'll go in depth, as the video goes on. But we'll give you a little info first about Bluemont. Basically, the Zierschmied family came to the Loudoun Valley area in the 70s and started cultivating the land. And like 2004, they started planting vines. 2006, Bluemont Vineyard opened up, and here we are today. I mean, on average now we're doing like 8,500 cases of wine a year. The business is ever growing, and the view is always great.
Spectacular.
But today we've got this pairing for you, and we hope at home you enjoy this as much as we do.
It's a good night in the making, wine and cookies. It's a good night in the making.
So Molly, what's our first step here? What should we do?
All right, so first step in a tasting is always looking at the wine. It's good to get a white surface, but honestly, this is a wine and cookie pairing. I mean, sure. So this wine is pretty clear. It's pretty young looking. It's a greenish yellow in color. So it's probably going to be pretty vibrant, pretty lively. That comes with a youthful white wine.
This is our Chardonnay.
This is our Chardonnay, by the way, 2019 vintage, which was fermented in stainless steel, and then underwent partial malolactic fermentation in New French oak. Only a touch though. It's very, very subtle. You might not even taste it the first time that you sip this wine. It is very vibrant and green, fruit and citrus forward.
It's definitely not going to have like a buttery flavor to it.
No, this is going to be super fresh.
What's I see people when they do a tasting, they usually sniff the wine. What's the point of that?
Just gets you primed for tasting pretty much. When you smell the wine, a lot of times you're going to pick up something that you might not necessarily pick up when you taste the wine. A big, huge part of the experience of tasting is actually the smell component. So it kind of gets you ready for tasting. And a lot of the times, as I said, you're going to smell things you might not even taste. Our noses are a lot more sensitive than our tongues. So it's always good to smell the wine. Should
you always swirl before you sniff?
100%. There is a scent component in wine called esters. That is the scent chemical in the wine. When you swirl it, you agitate the wine, so it releases the esters into the bowl of the glass, this area. And wine glasses are typically shaped where this part kind of goes inward, the top. That kind of collects the scent in the bowl. So once you swirl a little bit, just stick your nose in, preferably towards the bottom like this, as opposed to this, because then you'll get a lot more intense smell.
Oh yeah.
Right? It makes a huge difference.
Definitely. Well, people ask me all the time if red wine is more aromatic than white wine, like if it's going to produce more of a smell. Is that really the case?
It all depends on the grape variety. There are some grape varieties in both red and white categories that are highly perfumed. But white wine primarily has an entire subcategory called aromatic white varieties. That is the Trocken family. So Gewürztraminer, Riesling, Sauvignon, Torrontés, and Zabibbo in Sicily are all aromatic white varieties. That's a category of their own, and they are all known for their highly perfumed qualities. So you don't even have to swirl them in a glass. You will just smell them. I mean, they are beautiful.
I definitely smell some apple going on with this.
Oh yeah, green apple for sure. Lime, lemon, super citrusy, orange peel.
So the first cookie I'm gonna be having is the Snowball.
And why is that? Well, first of all, what is the Snowball cookie?
It's pretty spicy. It's like I compare it to like kind of like a powdered donut vibe, but definitely spicy inside. Try not to.
It's fine.
Get powder everywhere.
It's fine. I have a vacuum cleaner.
If you get powder everywhere,
wear a bib.
Yeah, definitely. But what's the importance of like taking a sip of wine and then biting into a food right after it?
Well, I would guess that the cookie you're eating right now is pretty buttery.
Mm-hmm.
So this wine is acidic. And think of it like peanut butter and jelly, right? So you have the peanut butter. The reason why peanut butter and jelly is such a perfect and harmonious marriage is because you have the peanut butter, right? So that's like fatty. It's fatty. It coats your tongue. And then you have the jelly, which is fruity and acidic. So it cuts through the fat. And a lot of chefs use that principle, acidity with fat. They complement each other. They balance each other out. It's like yin and yang. So, for instance, this cookie would be the peanut butter. It's the full-bodied, buttery, rich component. And the Chardonnay, which again is primarily stainless steel Chardonnay, it's acidic, it's bright, it's vibrant. It cuts through the fattiness of this cookie, making for a peanut butter and jelly-like harmonious marriage in flavors.
Most definitely. Molly, what's our next wine?
So our next wine is going to be our non-vintage autumn wine, made with apples from our very own Great Country Farm. When the Zerschmied family moved to Loudoun County in the 1970s, before Bluemont was even a concept, they had Great Country Farms where they grew a lot of produce, apples being one of them. Fast forward to now, not only do we make wine, we also produce a lot of apples, and we put them together to make this wine, our autumn apple wine.
Generally, don't you want like a more tart apple to make like with a wine or baking even, anything, because it's going to cut more? It's not, like you wouldn't want to use like a red delicious with a wine, right?
No. No, there's a reason why Granny Smith apples are used in baking. So yeah, this wine is, apple wine sounds like it's going to be super sweet. This one's actually off dry. Like it's still pretty balanced in terms of sweetness.
It's a little more opaque.
Yeah, a little more golden.
Let's try.
It straight up smells like an apple. There's no way around it. It smells like an apple. Like maybe
tastes like an apple. But that with the snickerdoodle, let's see. Yo. Cinnamon cuts like I've never had before.
apple. I mean, it's a classic.
That's great. You're gonna like, the first time I did this, I definitely tasted like cinnamon like I've never tasted it before. It was awesome. Still is awesome. Wow, that's great. So this would be good with like apple pie or like, I don't know, anything with
oatmeal.
Like nutmeg. Oh yeah.
If you want to have wine in the morning with your breakfast, just make some cinnamon oatmeal and drink this wine.
Does sound great.
Yeah, like cinnamon toast crunch.
Be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it doesn't have to be like a fall only wine either. I mean, I would drink this in the summer, no question.
We call it autumn because that's when apples are harvested, but I mean, this is appropriate year round. It's delicious.
Definitely.
Very, very apple forward. I would say if there's any like non-primary tasting notes, it would be like slightly citrusy, slightly tropical, but apple takes the cake on this palate of the wine. 100%. So next up we have the donkey.
One sec, sorry.
It's called the donkey because it's part of our farm animal series as kind of a nod to the origin of Bluemont, which is Great Country Farms, as was mentioned before. The Zerschmied family, before they were winemakers, were farmers. And so we have the Farmhand series as kind of an ode to that. We have various wines that are named after farm animals, and one of them is the donkey, which is our 100% Chambourcin stainless steel fermented rosé.
It's not like a pink wine for a rosé. Like
it almost looks like a light-bodied red, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's because the Chambourcin grape variety is pigmented through and through. Not only is the skin pigmented, but also the flesh, which is very unusual in the Vitis vinifera grape.
It's very like strawberry.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of like rose and lily, but also we got like super ripe strawberry, raspberry, very jammy.
Definitely. It's not like I don't know. It's still light, but it's dry. It's not like too sweet.
No, it's definitely dry. Definitely dry. It's got a really, really good, clean acidity.
So this is paired with the thumbprint cookie. Let's see.
So why do you reckon it's paired with the thumbprint cookie? You think it's the jam?
It's the jam.
It's the jam.
Oh yeah, that is the jam indeed.
That is the jam.
Very. It's like boysenberry.
Oh
That's
my.
great. They pair great together.
I can only imagine. Yeah, this wine is like strawberry jam and like cranberry sauce.
Mm-hmm.
I could imagine it would be.
It's a great Thanksgiving wine for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. I brought this wine at Thanksgiving. It was it was great. Went over very well.
All right, so Molly, we got our last wine, our last cookie. What do we got?
We have got our 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon.
Thank you. Excellent.
And this is being paired with the very boozy Bourbon Ball cookie.
Oh yeah.
And you know, this wine for a Cabernet Sauvignon is pretty elegant. It's got some really fine tannins for a Cabernet Sauvignon. It's got some really,
very light for a cab, right?
Yeah, very light. It's still got those beautiful spicy and ethereal notes that Cabernet Sauvignon usually has.
Wow, this smells really nice.
Yeah, it does.
People ask me all the time about decanting with red wine. Like, is it necessary? What is the whole point of it?
I would say the point of decanting wine is if it needs to just chill out a little bit, that's when you would decant it. If it's overly tannic, if it seems unbalanced, if you drink it and it makes your mouth feel sticky and dry, if it is too much of one thing, put it in decanter. But
is that usually with younger wines? They're gonna have that like intense
red for sure. Yeah. If you're drinking a Cab Sav or a Syrah or Shiraz, and it really should be, you know, aged in the cellar for 5 to 10 years, but you just can't wait and you're feeling impatient and you want to drink it when it's like 3 years old. Throw that baby in a decanter and see what happens, because a lot of the time it will make the wine open up and soften and just mellow out. With this wine, I would say no need. The tannins are already pretty soft and fine. If you did, I would say maybe 15-20 minutes. Just to kind of see where the wine goes. But this is just really good straight out of the bottle. It's super elegant, super refined, and it's really balanced already. I would say a really good way to judge if you need a wine decanted or not is the amount of tannin present or the amount of acidity. If one of those things seems like it's kind of too in your face, the wine might need to open up a little bit and decant it. Might need some time with some oxygen.
All right, let's give it a try. Definitely light, but really smooth. Like it's not like peppery.
No.
It's definitely like on the raspberry end.
Very raspberry, very blackberry.
Yeah.
Cherry, 100%, like a juicy black cherry. Very, very slight hint of licorice or star anise. Some like cherry cola or like caramelized sugar, but not like in the sense of it's sweet, just like the caramelized like burnt sugar aspect of it. It's actually quite dry and quite light for a Cabernet Sauvignon, but very, very nice.
One thing we like to talk about with notes with wine is that everyone's going to have different tastes. So, you know, stuff that we're saying that we're tasting if you're not tasting that, it doesn't mean that you're wrong, or because if you're tasting something different, it's like not there. It very well could be in your flavor.
It's subjective.
Yeah.
It's a very personal experience, wine tasting is. And so if we say something and you're like, actually, I think the wine tastes like this, there's no right or wrong answer. Everyone has a different vocabulary with their palate, and everyone has tasted different things and has different perceptions.
It's like saying like there's a berry in this that none of us have ever had before.
Yeah. Like red currant. Red currant isn't really in the USA at all unless it's dried.
Right.
Unless it's like a dried red currant. but even that's kind of hard to find. But in most of Europe, you can easily find red or black currant, and that's a very common descriptor of wine overseas. But that's not exactly relatable for people that aren't in Europe. And so whenever I was in Europe and I heard people describing wine, this is very red currant forward, I was like, what?
What is that?
But the same thing, like when I was living in Oregon, I used Marionberry a lot, and Marionberry is something that only really grows in the Pacific Northwest. It's pretty much a blackberry. But it just, and maybe I've had cherry cola and maybe you haven't. So it all depends on what you've tasted and what you can relate in your brain with what the wine tastes like. So there is no right or wrong answer. It's really all about what you taste. Also, wine is alive. It's constantly changing. It can vary from bottle to bottle, depends on when you open it up, how it was stored, how it was transported. And so there's a general consensus of what different grape varieties can taste like when they're made a certain way, when they're grown in a certain place. But there's such thing as fine tuning, and there's such thing as micro adjustments, and things that happen to the wine in its life that can make it taste a certain way. So no two bottles are the same, no two drinking experiences are the same, and no two palates are the same.
True. Let's try it with this bourbon.
Yeah. Why do you think this wine's paired with the bourbon?
Well, chocolate and wine, going back to your peanut butter and jelly comment.
Classic combo.
Literally made for each other. That's
also
insane.
Cabernet Sauvignon is a wine that's often bourbon barrel aged. So Cab Sav and bourbon, anything, is gonna
pair great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So all these cookies, in case anyone was wondering, they were made down at Great Country Farms by one of the grandchildren of the Ziersmeet family. And you can pick them up at Great Country Farms, or all sorts of great baked goods. But yeah, it's definitely boozy. You can taste a little of the bourbon left over in that cookie.
Burn your throat a little bit?
A little bit, but not too bad.
It'll warm you up on a cold night. Definitely.
But like chocolate with, especially Cab, or like fuller, heavier wines.
More bodacious wines.
It's amazing. It really, just transforms your palate.
Chocolate and wine. It's a match made in heaven.
It's the best. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Thank you for joining us today. We hope that you enjoy your cookies and your wines. And if you ever want to come visit us at Bluemont or just see the property, we highly recommend it. And otherwise, enjoy your wines and your cookies. Cheers.
Cheers.